Join us today. I'm very pleased to welcome for the first time to the Northern Miner podcast, Craig West, CEO of ColdBlock Technologies, Inc. Craig, welcome to the show.
Adrian, thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on, Craig. ColdBlock is in a very crucial part of the mining business in assaying. For those that haven't heard about ColdBlock, could you tell us a little bit about the company and what you guys are up to?
Yeah, sure, Adrian, and you're absolutely right. Our technology is used in assaying, a part of the mining sequence or process that has probably seen very little innovation or advancement in many years. It's a process that's kind of critical to all aspects of mining, from early stage geological testing all the way through the mining operation itself, through milling and processing, and then concentrate shipping. There's a lot of assaying that goes on in mining through the entire process.
Okay, excellent. Now, as far as ColdBlock, what is ColdBlock doing? Is it distinct from, say, other assaying techniques?
Absolutely. I'll start by saying I think a lot of the assaying techniques that are being used in the industry are relatively unchanged, whether it's, 4-acid digestion methods that are being used in base metals or fire assay that's being used in precious metals. There hasn't been a lot of innovation, hasn't been an enormous amount of change, and it's still a process that takes a long time and that is fairly hazardous. So what we're doing and what ColdBlock technology is we're used in the digestion step. So in order to do any kind of elemental analysis, in order to assay any kind of mining sample, you need to take that solid sample and turn it into liquid form. And once it's in liquid form, then it can be analyzed by someone else's piece of equipment, a mass spectrometer or optical emission spectrometer or an AA. There's lots of ways to analyze the fluid, but that process of taking the solid sample and getting it ready for testing is usually the longest, most challenging, most labor-intensive, most costly part of the assaying process is that digestion step. So that's where we're involved. We have a relatively new technology. We've been, as a company, around for about 10 years. We've had a commercial product in the marketplace now for about 4 of those years. And so our technology is making that process much faster, much safer, and is providing the same exact results that the companies have been getting for many years, but it's just doing it better.
And how is ColdBlock's technology, say, different from other assaying technologies?
It is quite different, Adrian. It's a very different means of doing the digestion. We're using infrared, and it is delivering the energy to the sample in a much more efficient means than the traditional methods that are out there. It's unique. It results in, substantially faster digestions because of how we are delivering that energy.
That's fascinating. And when you say companies, I mean, in a sense, who is using ColdBlock's technology? Is it miners? Who is using this?
Depends, Adrian, who's running the lab. Very often we'll see at some of the larger, more senior mining companies, they'll have their laboratory on site at their mine site, and they'll run that lab themselves. All the employees within the lab will be their own employees, and they'll have their own processes, and they'll do their own assaying. And we sell to them. And we have had many great sales. So some of the largest top 10 mining companies on the planet are now using our technology at their mining operations and are rolling it out and expanding it across their other operations. So that's one type of customer for us. Now, some of the medium and smaller size mining companies, they'll certainly still have a lab on site, but that lab is very often licensed out, or they've brought in a third-party commercial lab to run that lab for them. We often see they call them site labs, is what the commercial laboratories refer to them as. These site labs use our technology as well. So we're working both with large mining companies, medium-sized mining companies, but also with the commercial labs themselves. And in fact, Adrian, that's been a real area of focus for us in the last couple of years, is focusing with these large commercial labs, because the entire industry looks to them. They look to SGS or Bureau Veritas or Intertek. They look to some of these large commercial labs as what is the best market practice? What is the best way to get the most accurate results? And so we're working with some of those companies, and they've taken our technology in, they've tested it, they've tried it, and they have verified how well it works, and they're in the process of rolling out that technology to some of their customers.
Okay, excellent. And so in terms of the metals, does it work in a sense, this technology, with specific metals, or is this more wide-ranging? Is this even beyond metal? What kinds of applications?
I mean, the technology is used across all metal types. Within mining right now, for most of the base metals and lithiums and uranium ores, you're using a digestion process, probably using a hot block. method or hot plate to do your digestion is probably the most standard across the industry. And then on the precious metal side, you're probably using fire assay, which is just a pyrometallurgical version of what we're doing in terms of digesting the sample. So those companies are using those different methods across the entire spectrum of elements that are out there. And ColdBlock is no different. We're doing the same exact thing as those other methods. We are digesting any kind of matrix that's out there where these elements are sitting. So we have done thousands of different types of samples across the mining sector, from around the world. You can see a lot of this on our webpage. There's a section called resources where we summarize and we highlight some of the test work that we've done and demonstrate the accuracy of ColdBlock.
You mentioned companies and say large mining companies using this. Do governments ever approach you? I mean, there's a big concern right now about, metals processing with China pretty much dominating many of the metals out there. Do you hear from other people who just think that maybe you could help with this attempt to, reshore the supply chain?
So I've mentioned sort of our two main customer types, which are the industrial mining companies themselves and then the commercial labs. But certainly beyond that, we've had interest from government agencies as well, though especially the government agencies that get involved in either metals trade business, in the concentrate trade business, or do some sort of either geological studies themselves. We have a unit in with the Canadian Geological Survey. So yeah, we do get approached by governments for our technology, especially those agencies that are interested in monitoring and or watching the types of material that are exiting their various countries. So yeah, certainly interest there. And I guess the one step beyond then, Adrian, as well, would be into the academic world. Our technology has been installed at a number of different laboratories in universities, starting, across Canada, but certainly we've branched out beyond that now. And yeah, our technology is being used in many different universities where we have, PhD students that are doing work to show how well ColdBlock works and how it compares with the existing technologies that are out there. So yeah, we have a fairly wide range of customers.
Okay, very interesting. And in terms of the actual technology, I mean, is this one product or is this more of what we might think of as a suite of products?
We really have one product, Adrian, that is used across a wide range of different sample sizes. So we have 3 different variants of our primary ColdBlock Pro Series digester, one that is used for very large sample sizes up to 30 grams. Our largest seller is our medium-sized digester that is used for a lot of the base metal applications, 1 to 5 gram sample sizes. And then we have a small one that is used for much smaller sample sizes. It's really the same technology, but it'll accommodate different vessel sizes or different test tube sizes that, allow it to be used for a wide range of sample sizes, depending on what the laboratory is using.
Okay, excellent. And we have a lot of people in the mining industry who listen to this podcast. What is it that you want them to know about ColdBlock as far as what you're doing and how it might help them in their work?
Yeah, I think for a wide range of applications, whether it's a geology department that is running a number of samples and have sent them out to a commercial lab and they're waiting, 6, 8, 10 weeks for results to come back, I would say you don't have to wait that long. If that laboratory was using ColdBlock, we typically hear from the labs when they switch from an existing, hot plate or hot block method to ColdBlock, that they see at least a doubling in terms of throughput and a much faster turnaround time. So for that end of the spectrum, you don't have to wait that long for assay results. And then for the operating mines, very often we hear from a number of customers that when samples come into the site lab that's in the mining operation, they very often don't get results until the next day. And that causes, the operations to slow down, or you're waiting for results before you can act on whether a block of ore is ore or waste. You can get those results much faster. So just think about much more efficient mining operations from that end. And then certainly on the trade side, a lot of mining operations are producing concentrates, and those concentrates are being shipped around the world. And we are offering a technology here that can expedite the testing as things are getting loaded onto trains or onto ships. That testing process can be absolutely accelerated. And I guess for all of those applications, Adrian, from geological all the way through to end product, what ColdBlock represents of great importance to many mining companies is a much safer way to do that process. It is a much safer process, safer sample handling. We're not doing any pressurization of acids. The burn risk is quite a bit lower. We're able in many applications to get rid of some of the nastier acids that are used, like perchloric acid. You don't need to use that with ColdBlock. So it's a safer application as well as being, fast.
Okay, excellent. And as we start to wrap up here, Craig, where is this going? Where do you see the company heading in the next, couple of years here?
We've had a very exciting start to 2025 with a couple of the big commercial labs, not just verifying our technology, but starting to advertise its use to their customers. So they're out there saying, we can give you faster results. We can give you, the same accuracy. We can take more of your samples on. So that's been exciting for us to see those commercial labs get to that point where they're starting to advertise our technology. So what we're starting to see now is a lot more inbound interest from some of the mining operations that are out there. And so where do I see this going? I see ColdBlock becoming very broadly a standard method of assaying, certainly across the base metal space and lithium and uranium and rare earths, but also into the gold side, where we will become a standard for many applications there as well. This is the new way that the mining industry will be doing assaying in 5 years' time. And our goal is to get there as quickly as possible with our business and with our technology. And it feels like we're seeing a really good acceleration of interest, just given the progress that we're seeing with these big commercial labs.
Craig West, CEO of ColdBlock Technologies, Inc., thank you for joining us and sharing everything you're working on at the company.